We're back now at 7:12, and on Monday, President Biden was in Texas pushing for big changes at the Supreme Court. He's calling for an enforceable code of conduct and 18-year term limits for Supreme Court justices. The president is also calling for a constitutional amendment to limit the broad presidential immunity granted last month in a controversial ruling involving former President Donald Trump. So joining me this morning to break down what this means and its chances of passing Congress is our 9 News legal expert, Whitney Traylor. Whitney, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I feel like the first obvious question here is, can President Biden actually do anything himself to reform the Supreme Court?
I don't think so. I think what he could possibly do is an executive order, but something like this, when you're talking about the different branches of government, I don't think he would have the authority. So that's why I think it's why he's calling for a constitutional amendment, which even that is going to be really challenging. There you have to get 2/3 of both houses, and then it has to be ratified by 3/4 of the states. So will that happen during his term? No, I don't think so. And there could also be legislation, there could be statutory changes, but because you're talking about a branch of government, we have 3 branches, the judicial, executive, and legislative, and they're supposed to be co-equal branches. A legislative act, I don't think would do it. I think this would have to be a constitutional amendment, which would be very challenging.
All right, let's give people a better grasp of this topic in the first place. What are Biden's concerns, and what is he asking for specifically?
Yeah, well, I think one of his biggest concerns is that one president can make appointments that can last generations. And so what he's asking for are really 3 things. One is a reversal of the recent landmark decision giving presidential immunity to past presidents, giving federal immunity. I think that's one issue. He's asking for term limits on the court, and what his proposal is that every 2 years there would be a presidential appointment, and those terms would be for 18 years. And so he's asking for that as well. And then a code of conduct, because all federal judges have, on the lower courts, have a code of conduct, and people can file complaints and grieve them and things like that. Well, with the Supreme Court, they just now, last November, implemented their own code of conduct, but it has no teeth. It's supposed to be self-enforced and things like that. So how that would actually happen, though, would be a challenge, because who would actually put in check the Supreme Court if they had their own code of conduct?
Yeah, the Supreme Court itself has become a pretty controversial topic here. Now, there has been discussions in recent years about expanding or packing the court, if you will. What is behind that, and is it getting any traction?
Yeah, that's more political, I think, is packing the court, and that was an idea that the Democrats, both parties have proposed it over the years, but most recently the Democrats were talking about it with the recent 3 conservative appointments that former President Trump had. They were suggesting packing the court. That is more political theater, I think. Here, what you're talking about is I think more broad-based and less political, the suggestions that he's throwing out here. And part of the reason is I think the confirmation hearings have become so partisan that it's eroded public faith in the judiciary. I mean, all the polls for years and years have showed the executive and legislative that the public didn't necessarily have confidence in them, but the judiciary has always had more than 50% confidence. Now that has also been eroded. So, and I think that's partly because of the confirmation hearings. And you look back on Justice Kavanaugh, when he was appointed, that was a whole mess. He was talking about the Democrats, Clinton, and you can just look back even 20, 30 years ago when Justice Scalia, he was very conservative and he got a unanimous support. Justice Ginsburg, everyone knew she was very liberal. She only got 3 no votes. So over the years, the confirmation process has become very political, and I think that has shaped, part of the public opinion. And the reason this is so important is because the judiciary, they're the decision makers. They're the arbiters of our disputes. And if we lose faith in them as a public, as a democracy, then I think we really lose some rule of law.
All right. Well, we appreciate you helping us understand that a little bit more, Whitney. Thank you very much for your time.